I'm glad you guys showed up. I just had a brilliant idea for a horrific, scary movie. I mean, this could be revolutionary. There's no way that this has ever been done before. Now, just picture through the eyes of a spider,
crawling up the wall of a laboratory.
You see this geeky, this little nerd over here, this little teenage nerd over here. You just jump on his arm, and you gotta wait. You gotta wait until he sees you frightened, and you just sink those radioactive, those superhuman ability transferring fangs right into his arm, and then he becomes a superhero.
This is something else.
Right? Brilliant. I know. Kind of sounds a little bit like Spider-Man, doesn't it?
Gonna cry?
Okay. Spider-Man. Everybody loves Spider-Man, and we all had to get into Spider-Man some way and somehow, and lucky enough for me, I learned about Spider-Man smack dab in the 90s. We're talking about Todd McFarlane. We're talking about Maximum Carnage for the Super Nintendo. We're talking about great action figures. Yes, Spider-Man was at the top of his game in the 90s. Now, I enjoy all the Spider-Man films. Honestly, they're all great. You know, we've got
she's the one, Cole.
Hey, Spider-Man, we know who you are. You're busted. Oh, no.
If you even cared, you'd actually be here.
and all that stuff was great, but the real deal. Oh my God! Wow! Spider-Man, the animated series. That's the one that really hooked me and introduced me to Spider-Man properly, got me into the storylines, actually got me to go and get the comics. This was the source material for Spider-Man in my life, the introduction to Spider-Man for me. And wow, what an introduction. All of these badass characters, so many different scenarios that I would then see played out in the comics when I went and got them. I was introduced to the entire world of Spider-Man through that show, and I feel like the 90s cartoons for comic book characters were some of the best. Spider-Man the Animated Series was a cartoon put on Foxkids, and it was the best introduction that I could have ever had to our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I was really tied into the stories. I was mystified by all the characters. There were so many amazing moments in that show. So many cameos. I mean, you look at my favorite of all time to come out of Spider-Man, the favorite character of mine that I didn't know actually started in Spider-Man until later on, the Punisher.
Your days of terrorizing the innocent are over.
Don't tell me. The skull, the corny line, oh, your name must be Bonehead, right?
Ha! Got him! Got him! Hold on. Now, I never said the humor was that great. I just said it was a pretty cool Spider-Man cartoon, and there were a lot of awesome characters. Pump your brakes. But it did give a good introduction to the Punisher, even though it was kind of Punisher-like. Still, laser guns, they mention lethal force. That's the Punisher, Frank Castle, baby. And what if I told you in this very same cartoon, there were several episodes that Spider-Man was hanging out with the X-Men?
Ease and your shish kebab.
Spider-Man!
Cool. Tell us, why are you here?
None of your business.
Well, obviously things were a little crazy, but it was fun to watch. The X-Men had an amazing cartoon out in the 90s as well, so to see the two crossover like that was really, really cool, and just the interactions between Spider-Man and Wolverine, the two personality clashes there, that was amazing. I really enjoyed the interaction between the X-Men and Spider-Man. But in this same cartoon, not only was I introduced to really who the Punisher was and what he was kind of about, I got a deeper connection with the X-Men, but I was also introduced to another character, a Daywalker, somebody who would become one of my favorites to watch on screen, Blade.
Good try, Spider-Man, but you've got a lot to learn about catching vampires. It's time I taught you a few tricks.
So Blade, even in Spider-Man the Animated Series, still a hard ass. I had an idea of what to expect when I started watching the Blade movies. I was like 6 or 7 when I was watching this cartoon, and when the Blade movies came out, I was already a fan. He was already this just psychotic vampire slaying machine, a Daywalker, and a really, really awesome addition to one of my favorite cartoons ever. The Punisher, the X-Men, Blade. I'm sure you're asking yourself, how could there be another cameo, another episode featuring more Marvel superheroes? Well, there can be, and there is. I'm talking about Netflix's favorite son, the blind lawyer from Hell's Kitchen, Daredevil.
And the name's Daredevil.
You would have to be a daredevil to dare to challenge me.
I'm taking your family.
That's right, friends. Daredevil. And Daredevil was huge for Spider-Man the Animated Series because the Kingpin was a big-time villain. He was in several episodes that did not feature Daredevil. The Kingpin was always trying to get Spider-Man in this show. And that's how I knew a lot about him, even more than I actually knew about Daredevil when I watched the Daredevil series, because, you know, Fisk was always trying to get Spider-Man.
Moby Dick, time for me to reel you in.
There was so much going on with Spider-Man the Animated Series that they even got into the Secret Wars. Seriously, Iron Man, Captain America, the Fantastic Four, members of the X-Men. I mean, so many characters in that. That is how ambitious this cartoon was. It was literally what we see in the MCU right now taking place within like 5 different cartoons that Marvel was putting out. What an amazing situation they had going on there. I mean, there's no way that I could cover in the amount of time that I'm wanting to make this video all the stuff that was going on in Spider-Man the Animated Series. There's just no way.
Everybody calm down. We've got to figure out what's going on.
Eddie he has rallied them behind him.
Yes, a most promising start.
It continues. There's more characters. More happens. It's insane. Spider-Man the Animated Series was insane. And I can't do a video about this show without talking about one of my favorite anti-heroes and probably my favorite supervillain of all time. Well, I kind of mentioned him, but anyway, let's go ahead and bring up Eddie Brock, Cletus Cassidy, Venom and Carnage. Holy shit. The symbiotes. These guys were terrifying. They were things of nightmares. But Eddie Brock, you know, he was an asshole. He was a jock. He was mean, a bully, but he was nowhere near as terrifying as Cletus Cassidy, the serial killer, the sadistic psycho symbiote, Carnage. Oh my God, this man went around forming his arm into an axe ready to chop your head off. He was crazy, and it was just madness. It was beautiful. The artwork, the style. His style is just the cleanest. He is the, I mean, it's like Freddy Krueger with a symbiote suit. This guy was a beast. And as much as I love Venom, I have to say Carnage is probably my number one of the symbiotes. And probably next to Joker as maybe, I'm going to go ahead and give it to him. He's my favorite supervillain of all time. There he was, right in the middle of all the craziness going on in Spider-Man, the animated series.
Why did Dormammu send you? Didn't he trust us?
Ready for some father-son quality time?
In the mid-90s, there wasn't really much to choose from if you wanted to see your favorite Marvel characters on screen. Cartoons were pretty much it, and then there were some decent video games that came out for the Super Nintendo, the Sega Genesis, but there wasn't really much out there outside of the base material. So we got lucky. We got lucky that the cartoons were so good, but I guess they were good out of necessity. I'm just glad that my introduction to Spider-Man came through Spider-Man the Animated Series on Foxkids. What was your introduction to your favorite superhero or supervillain? How did you first find out about Spider-Man? I would love to hear all those things and anything else that you really want to say in the comments. I would really appreciate a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And if you would be ever so kind as to hit that subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you next time. Now you didn't like, subscribe, dislike, comment, or anything. I just mentioned it. I just said something about it, and now why? I mean, it's we click of just do it. Why? Why not? Just do it.